Hi again, everyone. Welcome to Pac-12 Breakdown. This is, of course, a Wednesday night. It's 11 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock on the West Coast, and we're usually on Google Hangouts. We've made our little transition to Blab. The interaction is great. The engagement, outstanding usually on these shows, so we invite you to join us. We hope to be here every Wednesday night at, again, 11 o'clock Eastern Time and 8 o'clock Pacific Time. We've done this 22 consecutive weeks, so we're pretty sure we'll be back next week. So to my right, as we do the Brady Bunch introductions, we've got Donald King from Last Word on Sports. On your lower right, it's Nick Dempsey from Rule of Tree and also Conquest Chronicles. And just below me, last but not least, Kaylin Jones of House of Sparky. So it's the off season. We're not going to see football, meaningful football for 7 months, spring football for about 5 or 6 weeks, but we talk nothing but football here. It never stops. So let's start with you, Nick, and this USC situation involving Pat Haden, much maligned throughout the season, involving a number of issues, starting with Steve Sarkisian, and then the promotion of Clay Hilton. That pales into comparison to what he's dealing with now in regards to resignation, and now suddenly we have issues with his health.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's probably a lot of people heard at the end of last week, Pat Haden announced that he would be stepping down in June as the athletic director. They were going to keep him on board to oversee the LA Coliseum renovation project for another additional year. So he was going to be retiring, but he'll still be there every day. So that was the plan as of last week. Today, unfortunately, he ran into some health problems. He had an incident very similar to what happened to him back in October at the Notre Dame game. He got lightheaded, perhaps a little bit of shortness of breath. He had to sit down. An ambulance was called. He was alert and coherent. Walked off on his own power, but he was then taken to his own private doctor for further treatment. I don't think they've released any statements following up on that, but this is the second time in 6 months or so this has happened. They also have not released any statements about whether or not he's going to adjust his timeline or anything like that. So he's had a very busy week, but the upshot is he seems fine now, but he still, as of now, plans on retiring in June.
Yeah, a number of people have beat up on Pat Haden going back to last fall and even before that for a number of reasons, but nobody wants to see somebody go through physical ailments. And our best to Pat Haden has to be in his early 70s, I would guess, something in that range. And obviously a lot of stress being the athletic director at a place like USC. All right, Kaylin, we'd like to have you set us up on a little Arizona State coaching upheaval. What's the latest since the last time we talked to you?
Yeah, it's been interesting, especially with, arguably being the most crucial month in football recruiting is January. But for Arizona State, following the loss of West Virginia, we already knew that Mike Norvell, the offensive coordinator, had moved on to accept the job at Memphis. But for their offensive coordinator, Chip Long, he actually followed suit, Mike Norvell to Memphis. He'll be his offensive coordinator there. And then along with that, you had Jackie Shipp, their defensive lineman coach, and then another secondary coach, I believe. They both vacated their spots, headed down to Missouri to accept the same roles there. But it's been interesting, though, for Arizona State. They only logged 18 recruits, but they still managed to keep a top 25 class, at least according to ESPN's rankings. They were able to snag the number one recruit within the state, which is N'Keal Harry. They weren't able to keep Connor Murphy or Byron Murphy within the state. But it'll be interesting to see that since you had such a big turnover, at least in coaching, Arizona State was still able to manage, to hang on to maybe not the top recruits, but a solid recruiting class. And especially coming off a year where Todd Graham had his very first season with a full-fledged group of what you consider to be his players since the removal of Dirk Cutter, I believe. It'll be interesting to see whether this group can, manage to come together and really improve upon what was kind of a disappointing season. So that'll be a storyline to watch throughout the year, whether or not the coaching changes that happened post bowl game or post 2015 season for the Sun Devils. It'll be interesting to see whether or not you see any effects on the field for the team.
Caitlin, how different is the vibe around this program and extending out to the fan base right now versus 1 year ago? Because 1 year ago, we were talking Arizona State. We were talking fringe playoff contender, chic playoff pick for a lot of people. The program on the rise, Mike Bercovici, a lot of expected of him in his last season. Todd Graham talking big hopes, high expectations, bad season, little coaching changes, which is pretty typical, but a little bit more than the typical top 25 type program.
Yeah, it's a lot of unknown. I think I couldn't give you a perfect adjective to describe the feeling around the fan base, but it's definitely died down like you talked about. There was a skepticism as whether or not they'd be a college football playoff contender, and then Todd Graham coming into the year saying that this would be his most talented group. We definitely didn't see it as in terms of results on the field for Arizona State. So as far as looking forward to next year, there isn't too much intrigue. There's definitely a lot of concerns and questions, especially with the coaching changes, whether or not the system will be the same. But I mean, after watching one game of Southern Missouri, which I watched their bowl game against Washington, it's pretty much the same exact system that Arizona State ran last season, at least offensively. It'll be interesting to see the quarterback change too, because a lot of people are wondering whether or not we see a more scrambling quarterback or a quarterback that fits Arizona State's system as an athletic quarterback as opposed to who Mike Bercovici was being a pocket passer. We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of interesting storylines, and then including the defense, which saw a lot of turnover as well. We had 5 secondary players leave and move on, and we weren't able to really secure too many highly rated recruits within the defensive backfield. But I think heading into the next year, there's not necessarily optimism, but not too much skepticism, I'd say, within the fan base. I think they're starting to more so accept that the team isn't as talented as we thought they would be.
Okay, guys, we've got Mitch Harper on the line. He's with 1320K Fan. He's my BYU contact, and he's got something to say about the Pac-12. So I'm going to let you guys boot me out. Now, you can't take advantage of that. You got to let me back in. And you can't be jealous because somebody gave me 28, whatever those are.
Yeah. I think that was me trying to click you back in. So
Yeah, that was me.
so enjoy them, though. You deserve them, Mark. Don't worry about it.
I was feeling pretty good about myself there for a minute. I'm used to doing those where the other host, a female, gets about 18 times as many of those as I get. So I was feeling pretty good about myself.
That's funny.
So you guys, I will click out of here. Mitch, jump on. He's got something to say just in regards to the conference possibly falling behind the SEC and the Big Ten. That would be an interesting debate in terms of money, resources, national power. So I will see you guys, and I will be listening.
All right.
You know what? I hope I don't think I'll hang up the call if I do this because I didn't last time. So
See you in a minute. Hey, Mitch, are you there?
We'll see.
All right.
Oh, there you go.
okay. Well, we tried. Mitch, if you're out there, we tried to get you on. All right. Don, in regards to Stanford, the stability of the conference, but still some coaching changes going on there.
Yeah, I have to editorialize just a little bit. You know, love the stability, love the class with which the coaches have conducted themselves. Hate the fact that you sign a class, bring in 4 defensive line signees, and then the week after National Signing Day, the defensive line coach announces his retirement. So you have to believe it was in the works for a while, and I totally get it. You know, you don't want to tank your own class by announcing, during recruiting season. But the kids have just signed their NLIs, and now the guy who was recruiting them is gone. Now they're going to be in good hands. There are rumors out there as to his replacement. It was one of Randy Hart's proteges. Perhaps coming back from a prominent school in the Big 12. So we won't speculate until it's all written in stone. But if you check Bruce Feldman's Twitter timeline, you can get an inkling of what I'm talking about. He's reporting that there's some movement already underway to bring in a replacement. But just a few words on Randy Hart. He's had an unbelievable career as a player and as a coach. So he's tapping out now after 46 years in coaching. Played at Ohio State for Woody Hayes on a national championship team. So he saw a Rose Bowl and won a national championship as a player. And he coached in another 9 Rose Bowls, including on January 1st of this year, and he gets to go out as a champion. So, here's to you, Coach Hart. God bless you. Have a great retirement. Godspeed. And thanks for all you've done for the program.
Absolutely well earned.
My goodness. Yeah, Nick.
Yeah, and he started out with Woody Hayes and did not pick up any of the Woody Hayes, let's say, temperament issues. For those of you who don't know, Woody Hayes was a very successful coach. Pretty sure he got fired for punching a player on the football field in a game.
That's what happened.
And that was probably the worst of it. But yeah,
you're hitting a soft spot here, Nick.
Yeah,
I know. He's St. Woody out in Ohio. I get it. But he did punch a kid in the face.
Yes, he did. And if you go back, it might be still on YouTube. I know the YouTube clips go back to 1978. It was the 78 Gator Bowl against Clemson. And I know that we're sticking with the Pac-12 here. But just to relive this, Art Schleitzer, freshman quarterback, interception to lose the game. They were going for the game-winning drive, down by 2 points. Linebacker Charlie Ballman picks it off, comes to the sideline. Woody Hayes just lifts his helmet, socks him right in the neck.
Oh my God.
And Keith Jackson and Frank Broyles were doing.
My goodness, Mark. Not that you were traumatized by this or anything.
Just slightly. You intercepted at the 27-yard line.
Your recall of the details on this thing are stunning. My goodness.
What's funny is this is clear as day that Woody Hayes punched his kid, and they're saying, we don't know what happened. What went on down there? There was some kind of skirmish.
Skirmish? I
I
saw
was
it.
like 6 years old at the time. And
I was watching it on TV. I remember seeing it too. It was pretty clear what happened. I don't remember all those details now. You got me there, Mark.
Yes. So Mitch didn't chime in here and call in, but he did lead us to something that I would like to hit on that's somewhat connected in future weeks. I've got this idea that possibly we'll take a different Power 5 conference each week and match it up against the Pac-12. We'll line up the Pac-12 seedings 1 through 12, and we'll line up that particular conference 1 through 10, 14, whatever it is. We'll have to ditch a couple teams fairly, and we'll just line them up. And I would love to get you guys' perspective on who would win that game right now. The 1 seed in the Big Ten versus the Pac-12, and go right down the list versus that particular conference. And that'll tie up 4 weeks right there of fun debate.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, sounds fun.
Yeah.
So what else is going on? Okay, so who did we not have? I think we covered pretty much everybody's school last week in regards to National Signing Day. Anything in the aftermath of that? Arizona State, where'd they come out? About 40 in the rankings?
ESPN had them at the 25th spot when I checked earlier today, so I don't want to check because they didn't sign anybody in January. So I'll gladly accept that we're placed as the 25th ranked team right now. I mean, God forbid we move down, but
that's solid. Actually, that's solid.
Yeah, that's really impressive to not close anyone in the final month and still be in the top 25.
I highly doubt it because I believe one of my colleagues actually wrote that we were a top 40 ranked class. So I'll probably have to read up on that again. But earlier today, we signed. I was actually about to talk about that. We signed a JUCO. I believe he's our baseball coach's son, Tracy Smith's son. I forget his first name. I believe it's Jack Smith. But he played defensive back and quarterback. I doubt that he's going to play quarterback for us, but he did officially commit to us today. So that's a last-second signee. For quarterback, though, it's going to be interesting because we have Brady White, who's a blue chip, and then we have Dylan Sterling Cole, who's also a blue chip. We have 2 4-star quarterbacks under under roster, and now we have a guy who's spent 2 years now as a backup after redshirting his freshman year, and Manny Wilkins, who Mike Norvell actually gave the opportunity to see a couple reps during the season. So as far as the quarterback position is concerned, I'd like to see what Brady White can do because he was the most highly touted out of the three. But in spring, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that quarterback battle plays out because White enrolled early just so that he could, get within the system and get used to the flow of things right now. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not he can live up to the billing because there was a lot of hype surrounding him when he first arrived at campus.
Bercovici, Kevin Hogan, and Cody Kessler all hitting the exits. Don, your thoughts about replacing Hogan?
Yeah, apparently it's back to square zero for Keller Chris and Ryan Burns. So the two of them will battle it out all spring, all summer, into the fall. The scuttlebutt is that Shaw is expecting to not name a starter until about a week to 10 days before the season opener against Kansas State. So a little bit of keeping it mysterious, I guess, a little bit of gamesmanship, but also giving the guys an understanding of how long he expects the competition to go on. Last year, Chris was the backup. He is the younger of the two, so this will be his redshirt sophomore year coming up. Burns is a redshirt junior. Chris looked to be at least a little bit ahead last year, although I think Burns probably played more. Shaw has a habit of playing the third-string QB in certain packages during the season, a little less worried about injury altering future game plans. And if you'll flash back, though, that's how that's the slot Kevin Hogan was in during his redshirt freshman year. And after the two guys ahead of him failed to play real well, that's when he took the starting job and never gave it back. So we'll see. The two guys are very similar physically. Chris supposedly has a slightly better arm. Burns is slightly faster and a slightly better runner. We'll see how it goes. Chris has those bloodlines, though, and, head coach and offensive coach lineage in his family. I think it's very much going to come down to whoever commands the offense better and has a better grasp on the playbook. That's likely to be the guy. And just based on last season, you got to believe Chris is slightly ahead. KJ Costello does come in as a class of 2016 signee. Expect him to redshirt next year. Shaw has already said he's going to be our quarterback of the future. Really highly touted kid from Southern California. Broke all of Carson Palmer and Matt Barkley's high school records. So the kid's very accomplished, very highly touted, and a great get for the future. But expect him to sit out all of the 2016 season.
Don, do you sometimes just shake your head? You can't believe Stanford football's in this kind of shape?
Every day, Mark. Literally every day. It's astonishing to me, where the program is now versus, all of my recollection for the entirety of my fandom. A number 3 AP finish is the highest in the modern era since, that national championship way back in the 40s. It's really, really unbelievable, the heights to which the program has risen and the consistency with which it's carried.
So if I remember correctly, that was a bad team with a bad record that pulled off the 40-point upset as a 40-point underdog at the Coliseum, right? That was the last of the bad teams.
Yeah, 2007 was the last bad team, and that one finished 4-7 or something like that. So yeah, yeah, the 2008 team wasn't great either. 2009 was Luck's first year as a starter, and that team went 8-4, and from there it's been no looking back. It's been double-digit wins every year except one since 2009.
Played Oklahoma in a bowl game in the Sun Bowl. Was that the team?
That's correct, but Luck broke his finger, didn't get to play in the game. Lost by one possession, but with Luck on the sideline watching.
Wow.
Yeah, it probably is different if he gets to play.
Yeah.
Right.
Usually is.
Cody Kessler, how's USC set up?
Well, they've got probably their front runner is right now anyway is Max Brown. He's been the backup for a couple of seasons now. This will be his third season. He's got plenty of talent.
Time, Nick, that he's been the backup.
Well,
he's highly touted though. He's supposed to be really good.
Played the Notre Dame game in 2012 when Notre Dame needed one more win to get to the national championship game. I think Max Brown, or that might have been Wittick, but Brown was in the mix at that point. That was like forever ago. Huh.
That's true. Well, Kessler's been around for a while, but I mean, not necessarily as long as old man Hogan up there.
That's true.
But no, but Brown's he's got this. He should have the system down by now. He should know how things work. I think what's really exciting is once this recruiting class of 2016 is all on campus, I think USC has 13 receivers they're going to have on their roster, plus 4 tight ends and just a whole bunch of running backs. They're loaded at weapons. Yeah. So I think for whoever comes in a quarterback, a big part of their job is just going to be sort of logistics. Just get the ball to a playmaker.
Yep.
You don't necessarily have to bomb at 80 yards. Maybe you don't have to be the best at receiving defenses, but you'll have plenty of talent to get the ball to, and they can make plays for you. And I think that's really what I'm excited about with the new quarterback coming in, whoever it may be.
All right, gentlemen, you guys made like something out of nothing tonight. Beautiful. Well done.
It's what we do best.
So this is our first appearance on Blab, and if you guys approve, I think we'll be back next Wednesday.
Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely.
All right, so for Don King from Last Word on Sports, and just below me, Kaylin Jones from House of Sparky, and of course it's Nick Dempsey from Rule of Three and Conquest Chronicles. He's so good he needs 2 websites. This is Pac-12 Breakdown. We come your way every Wednesday night at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock on the West Coast, and now right here on Blab. So, gentlemen, appreciate the time and the insight, of course.
Thanks, Mark.
Absolutely. Thank you.